New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Live from a secure concrete bunker somewhere in Ohio, New Thought Media Network presents Pastor Michael Mangus with Friday's Fireside Chat, spiritual conversation for today. Here he is from the secret radio room, surrounded by thousands of watts, Pastor Michael Mangus.
Well, good evening to you across the nation and around the globe here on the New Thought Media Network. I am Pastor Michael Mangus on the Friday evening Fireside Chat. Good to see everyone this evening. Thank you to Diego for running the controls back at our master station in Colorado. Really appreciate that. I apologize for last week's show that we weren't able to do it. I was doing a wedding over in Western Pennsylvania, and we weren't able to get together the logistics to be able to do the show. So we're back on, and there may be a few weeks here between now and Christmas. Then we'll have to pre-tape the show, but not a big deal. So anyhow, lots to talk about this evening. We are taping on 10/2/2020. Our show here is at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Please feel free, if you are watching live, to go ahead and to comment below. All right. That would be wonderful. Your participation is always welcomed. I would like to thank the Reverend Dr. Alice Brown. So I get a phone call last Saturday evening, and she said, "Michael, what are you doing on Sunday morning?" And I said, "Well, I'm working, Alice." She said, "No," she says, "when you're done with your service, come on this phone call. I would like to present to you an honorary doctorate." Isn't that nice? So that was very nice. Thank you to the Reverend Dr. Alice Brown for giving me an honorary doctorate from the Universal Oneness Outreach Ministry University. So again, thank you so very much. That was so nice. The purpose of our fireside chat, ever since I went ahead and started this in March, has been to talk about the issues of today and how we can apply our wonderful teaching towards them. COVID-19 is still in the news, especially this evening. I'll go ahead and read the statistics from the Center for Disease Control. As of 12 noon today, the total cases 7,200,060,465. The total deaths are 2,007,302, and the total cases are 300,093. That's in the last 7 days. The first presidential debate was held this week in Cleveland at the prestigious Cleveland Clinic. And even after being told by a doctor, the president's entourage refused to wear a mask except for the First Lady. And we found out yesterday that the presidential advisor, Hope Hicks, tested positive. And we woke up to this morning with the news that President Trump and the First Lady are tested positive for COVID-19 and are exhibiting symptoms. We just saw on the 6 o'clock news the president being taken to Walter Reed Hospital by helicopter for observation. Former Vice President Joe Biden and wife Jill tested negative. And what did he say in a tweet today? He said what I've been saying since March, which is wash your hands, wear a mask, social distance. I know that some people in New Thought don't like me talking about it. Oh, we don't want to talk about COVID-19. We don't want to talk about the negative because we give power to it. No, the reason I go ahead and I say the numbers weekly is not to make us afraid, but to make us aware. We are still in the fire here, and we still need to be aware. So that's the reason why I bring it up. Again, continue to wear your masks. Continue to wash your hands. Continue to take care of yourself. Continue the social distance. This week, Australia reported a record low flu season. And why was that? Because people were wearing masks, social distancing, and washing their hands. And I think that's what's going to happen here. Oh, and also they went ahead and they had taken their flu vaccine also. All right, let's talk about this because I've seen a few comments on Facebook about this, about karma and the Trumps. Can we all not go there? Please. Can we all not go there? The path of spirituality is love. The path of spirituality is love. Didn't Jesus say, our master teacher, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you? My prayers are with our president this evening. My prayers are with the First Lady. My prayers are with his family, his staff. Love is the highest thing we can do. But Michael, you don't understand. See, yes, I do. I understand that spiritually, that any kind of animosity towards anyone, what happens is that blocks me spiritually. That blocks me from being at my full potential. So by love, by loving my neighbor, by loving the Trumps, by loving whoever, that's the way of peace. That's the way of love. So my prayers this evening are with our president and also the First Lady. Again, love is the answer here. There is no question. And continue to do the most loving spiritual thing you can do, which is wash your hands, social distance, and wear a mask. Those three things really make a difference. Like I said, in Australia, the doctors down there are surprised that their flu season was statistically next to none. So that's the most loving thing we can do this evening, is to love. I was at a wedding last weekend in Western Pennsylvania. The staff of the venue I was at had everyone go into a closed area for the introduction of the bride and groom, and I didn't go. I was taking care of myself, and I was taking care of the people that I love. That's something to think about. Again, if you get that queasy feeling that says, don't do it, please don't do it. All right? Take care of yourself. Take this seriously. That is what all of this is about this week. We need to take this seriously. 200,000 people plus have lost their lives, plus also affected millions of others. Please, we need to take this seriously. And also, again, we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that there will be an end to this. And that's where we can use our New Thought teaching of seeing a world that does work for everyone, of seeing people whole, healthy, and well. So since the last time we talked, there was announcements of no murder charges being filed against the police officers in the Breonna Taylor case. One officer was charged with 3 counts of unsafe discharge of a firearm because it went into the neighbor's apartment. Again, pray for peace and justice. We continue to demand justice for Breonna and also the others by demanding police reform. I support our men and women in blue. Make no mistake about that. I know many police officers, and that we need to stop the killing of African Americans. If you want to stop the riots, do that. But it's more than that. It's getting rid of the racism that's in our hearts. And that's something I think that is the real gift of this. It's pointing out some of the things that, again, that has been hidden. A lot of the racism here the past few years has been covert and not overt. So we go ahead and we support the police. We support the police in getting rid of people who are the bad apples in the bunch. I abhor, and I know that's a really strong word in New Thought, but the killing of Black men and women at the hands of police officers needs to stop. And again, I recognize that that is only a part of the problem. That's the visible part. The invisible part, again, is the systemic racism that's going on. Again, that we're all being called to examine in our own lives and to get rid of. Also, if you feel called to go in the streets, please do it peacefully. Continue to hold the high watch of a world that does work for everyone. The destruction of property does not help the cause. We need to do this in a peaceful, loving manner. And again, for those people who say, well, in New Thought, we shouldn't do any of that stuff. We shouldn't do any of that social justice stuff. Again, as I was saying to Diego before we went on this evening, you need to study New Thought. Emma Curtis Hopkins was a big proponent of the women's movement. Also, Wallace Wattles was the socialist candidate for the U.S. Senate at one time. Reverend Wattles was deeply involved in the labor movement. We are to speak up. We are to speak out. We are to love our neighbor as ourselves. All right? Okay. Well, just to let you know, if you have stumbled onto this Friday evening show here on Facebook, this is the Friday Evening Fireside Chat here on the New Thought Media Network. I am Pastor Michael Mangus. And for a few announcements here before we go on, we will have a special guest here coming up at around 8:30. A friend of mine from Cleveland, Ohio, Longtime practitioner Emeritus Fran will be with us to teach us a thing or two about prayer. So that'll be coming up at 8:30 Eastern here. Yours truly is parking himself currently at a wonderful spiritual community called Summit CSL, Summit Center for Spiritual Living. For more information about that, go to summitcsl.org. Wonderful things that we are doing there, including one of the best Sunday gatherings that I have ever been to. And I have been in New Thought for close to 40 years now. And the Sunday gathering there is absolutely fantastic. So there at summitcsl.org, you'll get more information about the Sunday meetings online, which are at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific time. So all of my California friends and West Coast friends, again, grab your cup of coffee or tea and join us. It's really a great time. They will be continuing, we're starting a new monthly focus here in October on manifestation. And this Sunday, you'll get to hear probably one of the better speakers I've ever heard in New Thought, which is Dr. Dina Henley. She's a wonderful speaker. The doctorate is an earned doctorate from prestigious university. She was a criminal science professor for many, many years, but now she's helping out college students. But Dr. Dina Henley will be our very special guest speaker this Sunday at Summit CSL. Please join us. It's just a great time. summitcsl.org. Also, we are working on some classes, including a foundations class and also other activities, including a prosperity class online. So we're all working on that. So take a look at summitcsl.org and we will give you more information about that. Yours truly is available for practitioner sessions, also guest speaking, and also ceremonies, including weddings. Been doing a lot of weddings here recently, which are really cool. The wedding season has been really interesting this year. I usually do probably about 40 to 60 weddings a year. And that this season has been one of those seasons where, because of the COVID, that we haven't had hardly any wedding season at all. But now people are saying, well, if we're going to get married in 2020, we better do that. So please, if you'd like more information about them, Pastor Michael Mangus at gmail.com, Pastor Michael Mangus at gmail.com. I'll get you more information about that. Also, many wonderful programs here on the New Thought Media Network. We have morning and evening prayer here. Our Wednesday night boost with Reverend Robert is absolutely outstanding. Real Talk with Eugene Holden on Thursday evenings just rocks. Also live from the UK, which Diego also produces with practitioner and also fellow ministerial student Laura Topper. We have concerts. We have classes, and we have so much more here. So if you could go on the New Thought Radio and Media Facebook page. We're also working on a brand new website. We are working also on getting the stream off of 365, Live 365, and putting it on our website. All kinds of wonderful stuff. If you've noticed this week that Reverend Robert and others have been focusing on peace, meditations on peace, thoughts about peace, that's holding the high watch here. In all of this confusion that's going on, New Thought Media Network is in the forefront of saying, yes, there is something that we can do. Yes, we can shine our light. Yes, we are the saviors that we've been seeking for and looking for. It's within each and every one of us. So again, if you could, your donations would be most helpful. Click on our link at paypal.me/New Thought Radio. If the programming here has blessed you, then please be a blessing to other people. We will soon have a fall fundraiser, including cool gifts, which I'm not going to tell you about yet. But don't wait until then. We have a lot of things that we can be doing here. Please help us. Please make a generous donation to the New Thought Media Network at paypal.me/New Thought Radio. We use every dollar to get the message out there. And we just appreciate your help. And thank you so very, very much. Good evening, sunshine. How are you from San Diego, California? And also good evening to Pamela Longville. Good evening. She said to Sunshine, Ohio here. Well, it is dark here in Ohio. That's one of the things that's kind of interesting about Ohio is that, again, as we get, see, we're in the fall season, we're coming up to the winter solstice, that, again, that the light seems to diminish. And that's the reason why we have festivals of light during that time. Diwali from the Hindu tradition. We also have Hanukkah, and we also have Christmas. All three of those are festival of lights. Again, to remind us that even in the darkest periods, that we have that light with us. Emmanuel, God is with us. So, yeah, lots of wonderful things happening here. And so again, if you could, please send me an email. I would love to talk to you sometime. At pastormichaelmangus@gmail.com. Just send me an email to say that you're listening to the show. That would be greatly appreciated. In other news this week, voting has started in many states. Governor Greg Abbott from Texas said that each of the counties in a state could only provide one mail-in ballot location or box per county, and that is creating quite an uproar in Texas and around the country. Again, this program is not political. I may mention politicians, I may mention issues, but I bring them up so that we can have a spiritual conversation about them. The most moral, the most ethical, the most empowering thing that you can do this fall is vote. Go vote. Your vote counts. Vote early, by mail or in person. There's many fine resources online. Don't let anyone intimidate you into not voting. When you don't vote, you still vote. Do you know that? When you don't vote, you still vote. And you're leaving it up to other people to decide. You decide. You help with the decision here. So go vote, go vote. Please go vote. That is the most empowering thing that you can do, is to go vote. Rest in peace, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who died a couple of Fridays ago. She was a defender of human rights for many decades, both as an attorney and also on the bench. Rest in peace, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Okay. Before we have Fran come on, Fran Daniels, practitioner emeritus from Cleveland. It's not all serious in the news. From Radio Insight magazine, a Youngstown radio station begins Christmas music. A Youngstown, Ohio radio station begins Christmas music. It says here, Cumulus Media Oldies, Z104, that's 103.9 WWIZ in Middlesex, Pennsylvania, also Youngstown, has become the first station in the country to go all Christmas for the 2020 season. WWIZ made the move today at 12:25, rebranding as Christmas 104 exactly 1 month earlier than the station made the move in 2019. WWIZ intends to return to its oldies programming at the end of the year, just as it did in 2019. And this was the news release. It says Cumulus Media announces the launch today of Christmas 104, the Valley's Christmas station, an all Christmas radio station bringing holiday cheer and the season's best Christmas music to the Mahoning Valley. Christmas 104 debuted today at 12:25 on WWIZ. Previously programmed as Z104, the Valley's Good Time Oldie station. We Need a Little Christmas by Percy Faith and his orchestra kicked off the festive and familiar lineup of holiday tunes, which will run throughout the year's end on the station. Bill Kelly, who is the vice president and market manager of Cumulus Youngstown, said this: if we could ever use a little Christmas right this very moment, it is this year. We simply wanted to lift people's spirits. Charlie Connolly, who is the operation manager of Cumulus Youngstown, also added, we're bringing about much loved Christmas music to our listeners about a month earlier than we did last year by playing traditional and new Christmas classics on Christmas 104, the Valley's Christmas station. We are doing our part to usher in the season of love, peace, and joy even earlier. I have received official communication from Reverend Robert of the New Thought Radio and Media Network. And this is what it says. To whom it may concern, New Thought Radio and Media Network will not play Christmas music at all until a week before Thanksgiving. We will then play Christmas music by our favorite New Thought artist at that time. A little too early for Christmas music. We're not even into the Halloween season. And I saw up Christmas trees at a local store I was at yesterday. Yes, I see the reasoning for it from a programming viewpoint. But again, I think that just a little early this year, Cumulus Broadcasting. But I thought I'd bring that to you because not everything in the news is all serious. As we wait for our wonderful guest this evening, hi there. This is the Friday evening Fireside Chat here on the New Thought Media Network. I am Pastor Michael Mangus, and we are talking about contemporary issues from a New Thought perspective. This is an article that I have been saving for the past few weeks. It's been on the stack of good stuff. The author is Rahini Ross, who is an author and coach. And the title of the article is Anti-Racist Work and Spiritual Inquiry. From her blog, she says, if you find yourself saying, is she still going on about this? It could be the perfect opportunity to look within, to take responsibility for that internal reaction of resistance and discomfort, and see what more there is to be revealed beyond the contraction. This is on thriveglobal.com if you'd like to take a look at it. I'll just read a few portions of this as we wait for our guest here. I've been heartened this past week by a number of spiritual teachers from different traditions speaking out against racism and making it clear that the anti-racism is a part of the spiritual work and not separate from it. Eckhart Tolle, Tara Branch, Ron and Mary Holnick all made their positions clear that they were taking actions to support anti-racist work and standing up rather than just standing by. I also really appreciate listening to Ganjaji's podcast, Being Yourself, Meeting the Roots of Racism Within. Thanks to Sarah J. Sanderson, who is the co-founder of When Women Speaks Global Network, for sharing and bringing it to my attention. Ganjaji and her host Barbara shared in the podcast that the conversation about racism is a crucial conversation to be having at this time and deeply spiritual. Let me digress from the article here for just a second. We need to be talking about this. We need to be understanding that this whole issue has been around this country for well over 400 years. And it's about time that we put an end to it. So that's why we're having the discussion about it. I'll go on with the article. It says, I am grateful not to be alone in believing that addressing racism is not separate from spirituality. What has happened since the murder of George Floyd is a great awakening to injustice. The protests and momentum around the globe have the potential to create real change in terms of social justice. But we all need to do our part. I am so glad that many spiritual communities are speaking out, including New Thought communities and also Centers for Spiritual Living. We are speaking up. We are speaking out. Again, I have read official communications from CSL. Again, the views and opinions I share on this show are my own and do not reflect those of this network or of Centers for Spiritual Living or anyone else. However, what I've read on this show, again, I agree with. I will continue. I am so glad that many spiritual communities are speaking out. No justice, no peace is spiritual. Can we get that? No justice, no peace is spiritual. It is the recognition that when one is suffering, all are suffering. We all say that everything's one. When are we really going to believe that and know that? The author writes, from the positions of privilege like my own, it is easy to be in denial of the oppression that is happening right now. Of course, I know that racism exists, but its impacts have been subtle in my life. I have been comfortable getting on with my work and waking people up to their potential and showing them how to have a better relationship, but I wasn't focused on addressing systemic injustice. I was living in a bubble of denial. I should have known better. My first master's degree was in cultural geography, and my thesis title was The Ethnocentric Chorale, Feminism, Postmodernism, and Cultural Geography. Wow, that's a wonderful name for for a paper. I am no stranger to the impact of the European colonialism and the discrimination and the marginalization of Black people and people of color. But I had not been doing my part. I am glad to have my eyes reopened and to be reminded to be an ally. I'm getting a note from my producer, Diego. Is she ready to go on? If you could type that back, please. Fran, if you're trying to go live, not yet? Okay. If you could do me a favor, Diego, and go ahead and I don't know if she is watching the show or not here on Facebook Live, but Fran, if you are, push the button that says, when you enter into the broadcast room, push that button. All right? Okay. I'm reading a wonderful article here by author and coach Rohini Ross. And she continues, she says, I need to see what is. Healing comes through seeing and understanding. This makes room for compassion, empathy, and love. Denial is the opposite of seeing. It allows for ignorance and for fear to run amok. None of us are completely free of this. It is spiritual to respond to suffering. It is spiritual to respond to suffering. Clearly, the issue of racism and other forms of injustice have not been adequately addressed because they still exist. Can we understand that? 400 years plus. Systemic racism. We need to speak up about it. We need to speak out about it. We need to end it in our own hearts. Author goes on, she says, shifting this requires that we each do the work in our own consciousness to wake up more fully to our prejudice and then to work together collectively to effect systematic change. This is not the job for Black people or people of color. It is the work for those of us holding power to wake up to the systematic change that is needed and to let go of their unequal share of power. This is spiritual work. It's coming up at this time for a reason. We need to recognize the brutality and the horror that so many people have been experiencing here for centuries. I'm getting another note here from the world famous Diego. We're still working on Fran Daniels here coming in. As soon as we do, we will get her in. We need to recognize from the article the brutality and the horror that so many people have been experiencing here for centuries. We have to address the conditioning that allows for whiteness to seem to be as superior. Hardly anyone is free from this conditioning. I'll bring something up here. There is no such thing as a white Jesus. No such thing. The people in the Bible, the people in the Bible here are all of Middle Eastern descent, or most of them. And most of them had, or do have, brown skin, or even darker. Article goes on and says, it is spiritual to break free from conditioning that has us to try to preserve our survival by stepping on top of someone else. It is spiritual to free oneself from the attachment to the external power structures that require, you have to help me on this word here, subjugation to be in place, Spirituality is not a retreat from life. It prepares the heart to approach life head on and to see where more love and understanding are needed. It addresses the mistaken belief that we are separate rather than one being expressed in a multitude of ways, the one source. As Gangaji said in our podcast, there is no aspect of our lives that is separate from the truth of ourselves, and that we can be willing to recognize and take responsibility for the prejudice within ourselves. The depth that is there and the possibility of discovering the freedom that includes all and welcomes all there is, and for yourself and all of the others. I'm reading from a wonderful article this evening called Anti-Racist Work in the Spiritual Inquiry. And you can read the whole article by Rohini Ross, who's an author and coach, on thriveglobal.com. Article continues. She says, if you don't believe that you are a racist, understand that racism is not always expressed as hatred. That is only the extreme. Gangaji expresses her profound love for her Black nanny, but she also recognizes the conditioning of her prejudice against Blackness. She knew that Black represented the bottom of the social ladder. There are not many places on the globe that have not been exposed to the ideology of white supremacy. And in the Western developed world, we live in a system of racist policies that benefit white people. Do we understand that? If you do not believe that your light skin gets you privilege, please go read some books about it. There's plenty of books out there about it. This white skin gives you privilege. It does. I had to be convinced of that. I didn't think it did. But again, I took a class on diversity and inclusion, a college level course, and had a wonderful professor who didn't yell at me, who went ahead and said, you need to take a look at your own beliefs. Article goes on, says, and in the Western developed world, we live in a system of racist policies that benefit white people. This is beyond the individual. The collective systems that are in place support subtle and overt discrimination, abuse, and even the killing of Black people and people of color. Racism is not reserved for the alt-right and the Nazis. It is yours and mine also. We also have to look within and see the profound prejudice that can be so invisible and subtle. We need to look for the ways that we feel better than and use self-elevation as a way of self-protection. As Gangaji says, a lot of us escape if we regulate it to hatred. Article's almost done here. It says, racism is about the human desire for power and survival. It is the spiritual willingness, because to move beyond requires a new reference point. A willingness to see what we haven't seen about who we are, so that our foundation of safety and well-being is not sought for externality, but is recognized as coming from within. That new internal reference point is that which is spiritual, which makes it possible to override the conditioning of the ego and make choices that honor the well-being of all rather than the survival of one. To get there, we need to see what is invisible to the eye. We need to let go of learned conditioning by recognizing it. We must allow space to feel the healthy guilt that arises when we shift levels of consciousness. And we can start with ourselves and wake up to our ignorance, blindness, cruelty, and lack of care. This is the spiritual work. I'll pause there. This is all the work that we're called to do as people who are on the path. this is part of our work, is to do self-evaluation, self-examination, and to see within us anything that is unlike love, and to be willing to release it and let it go. Rahini Ross continues in 3 more paragraphs. It says, we start by addressing the Eurocentric views of the white supremacy within, and then we show up as allies without. Solutions are not easy and may not be clear, but the way forward towards reparations and inclusivity will be revealed from a freer mind. But first, we need to first see the truth of the oppression that we are capable of and party to. We need to be conscious of how we participate in the continuance of injustice so that we can learn how to stop it. There's no perfection in this. There's simply moving forward and learning and growing. The murder of George Floyd was just a tipping point. The festering wound of racism and the associated pain and suffering came into the light more fully. This is a time for healing, wrote Rahini Ross. This is spiritual work. Ganjaji says, all spiritual teachings are about truth-telling, and wherever we try to partition off telling the truth, that is where we make ourselves smaller than we are and separate from the bigness that we are. We must look at it and look at it deeply and tell the truth. The need for freedom from oppression is real. The desire for deeper inner freedom is not separate from the desire for freedom from outer oppression. Looking at it head on and taking responsibility for our part opens up the possibility of real freedom that helps lift us all. Again, Rahini Ross's article, which is on thriveglobal.com. Please read that. I know that we feel uncomfortable about this, especially in New Thought. We don't want to talk about anything negative. But again, this is coming up for healing. We need to be aware of it. We need to start thinking about it and to start being a part of the solution rather than a part of the problem. So as I check in with my producer, Diego, are we able to get Fran on this evening? She tried to call me during my reading of the article here. Anyhow, you are watching this evening the Friday Evening Fireside Chat here on the New Thought Media Network. I am Pastor Michael Mangus. It's really good to have you with us this evening. Doesn't look like we're going to be able to get Fran on this evening. We're having technical challenges. Please stand by. But that's okay. We have one more article I'd like to read. Again, this is in the stack of good stuff that I've been kind of putting aside here. This last article I have for this evening, it says, to dismantle racism, we must heal the human spirit. And this is by Father Brian Massengale, and this was published in Catholic Voices magazine. It says, recently I had the privilege of a conversation with Michelle Alexander, author of the influential book, The New Jim Crow, Color Blindness in an Age of Mass Incarceration, one of the country's foremost commentators on racial justice. Alexander argues that mass incarceration is but an updating of the radical regimes that thrived first during the African enslavement in the colonies and on through the era of systematic racial segregation and disenfranchisement. That is, through our criminal justice and penal systems, we have recreated the system of racial caste and control that has long marked our nation. Her book is a very sobering portrayal of social reality. I'll go ahead and mention it again. It's called The New Jim Crow, Color Blindness in an Age of Mass Incarceration, which is published by the New Press. Father Massengale's article goes on, he says, yet what made the evening especially memorable is that White Alexander is a lawyer by profession and training, and she left the law practice to enroll and teach in a seminary. And I asked why that she would leave a lucrative and socially prestigious occupation to pursue religion and faith. And she responded that she came to realize that while legal strategies and policy changes are essential tools, they are insufficient for dealing with the scourge of racism. She declared that the problem facing the nation can only be resolved by going where the law and social analysis cannot take us. The solution to our social ills, she believes, lie in the realm of spirit. Article goes on, she said, or the author of the article said, her answer strongly resonated with me. The deepest reasons I chose to become a Catholic ethicist who focuses on racial issues stems from my understanding of racism. There are many ways to understand racism as a political issue, as a sociological phenomenon, or a cultural divide. But for me, at its deepest level, racism is soul sickness. It is a profound warping of the human spirit, one that enables human beings to create communities of cold, callous indifference to their darker sisters and brothers. Stripped to its core, racism is that disturbing inner disease that enables people not to care for those who don't look like them. I am convinced that it is necessary as change social practices such as better police training and body cameras may be, and as important as the vigorous enforcement of civil rights laws, these will be limited and even ineffective without a deeper conversation, without a healing of the soul, without what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. called a profound revolution of values. That is, we must attend to the deeper recesses of the human spirit that are the realms of religious faith and spirituality. Continuing on, it was a powerfully moving evening to engage Alexander in such a conversation. Then a disheartening realization came. There was more than 700 mostly first-year undergrad students present at this event. And as a moderator, I asked who among them had heard a homily that addressed racism as a sin or a spiritual challenge in their church, synagogue, temple, or other place of worship. Very few raised their hands. That's because it's an unpopular topic. We don't want to talk about things like that. But I want to say this, as somebody, again, who is a spiritual coach and guide, we must address this. We must examine our own hearts about this. Article continues. Very few raised their hands. Michelle was disappointed. I was as well, but I was not surprised. This data is consistent wherever I ask this question, and it attests to the actual avoidance of the issue, mostly on the part of Christian leaders and also certainly in the Catholic Church and also in the New Thought movement. My commentary. When was the last time that you heard a talk on racial equality at your New Thought church? Probably not until recently. But again, it's an important conversation that we need to have. Article's almost done. It says, sadly, the faith communities and its leadership, with few exceptions, keep silent. Even the national leaders play upon racial fears, stoke racial resentments, proudly proclaim that they are nationalist, and openly consort with the white supremacist organizations. Last paragraph, it says, our nation recently inaugurated a new Congress. This article was written in January of 2019, a divided body that mirrors the social fissions and racial divides that scar our country. It reminds me that policy alone cannot heal these wounds, nor can we redress white nationalism and white supremacy through legislation alone. These evils require responses that engage the soul. And this is essential contribution that our faith can make. This is our time. This is our season. This is our time again to support our brothers and sisters. Again, we have the tools within New Thought to erase that, to order the subconscious or subjective mind, to erase that from our own hearts. We have the tools that we can teach the planet. And more importantly than that, we can go ahead and we can teach love. We can teach love. And how do we teach love? We teach it not only through our own example, but we also teach it again through speaking up. All right. Again, this is the Friday evening fireside chat here on the New Thought Media Network. I am Pastor Michael Mangus. And since we have a few more minutes, and I didn't get a chance last week to do it, ladies and gentlemen, here they are, the world famous and ever popular, never complained about jokes. What did the baby corn say to the mama corn? What did the baby corn say to the mama corn? Where's popcorn? Why is a computer so smart? Because it listens to its motherboard. What did the mama tomato say to the baby tomato? Catch up. Diego is going, oh my goodness, what is he doing here? Why did the baby strawberry cry? Because his mom was in a jam. How do you keep little cows quiet so that their mommy can sleep late? How do you keep little cows quiet so that their mommy can sleep late? They use the mute button. And why was it so hard for the pirate to call his mom? Because she left the phone off the hook. Thank you very much. They never complained about jokes. Watch someone send me an email. All right, it is about time that we go ahead and we leave this evening. Before I do, I'd like to remind you again that your donations is what powers this network. And we would really appreciate, again, a special gift in the fall. We will be having a formal fall fundraising drive here in the next few weeks. But you can be a part of this worldwide outreach now by sending a contribution to, again, paypal.me/newthoughtradio. Your contribution really helps us to get the word out to the whole world. We have the technology now through the internet. We also plan on expanding on terrestrial radio also, terrestrial media, and we can do that. We can do that through your help. All right, so New Thought Media, and you can go ahead and do that's at paypal.me/newthoughtradio. I want to read one more thing and then we'll go this evening. I was going to read this last time that we were together, but I wanted to read this tonight because, again, it is from our tradition. It's Psalm 91. And it says, "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High and abides in the shade of the Almighty says to the Lord, my refuge, my stronghold, my God in whom I trust. He will free you from the snare of the fowler, from the destructive plague. He will conceal you with his pinions, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a buckler and a shield. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrows that fly by the day, nor the plague that prowls in the darkness, nor the scourge that lays waste at noon. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 may fall at your right, but for you it will never approach. Your eyes have only to look to see how the wicked are repaid. For you, O Lord, are my refuge. You have made the Most High your dwelling. Upon you no evil shall fall, no plague approach your tent. For you he has commanded his angels to keep you in all your ways. They shall bear upon you their hands, lest they strike your foot against a stone. And on the lion and the viper you shall tread, and trample the young lion and the serpent. Since he clings to me in love, I will free him, protect him, for he knows my name. This is the Lord talking. When he calls on me, I will answer him. I will be with him in distress. I will deliver him and give him glory. With the length of days, I will content him, and I will show him my saving power. So when things are looking dark, that's a wonderful reminder from the Psalms. Again, of the wonderful law that if we invoke it for our protection, for our safety, doesn't mean that we're stupid. Doesn't mean that we don't go ahead and take care of ourselves either physically, emotionally, or spiritually. But what it means is that we go ahead and we trust in God. That somehow or another, this is all going to work out. All right. For more information about me, just go on. If you go on or write me at pastormichaelmangus@gmail.com. We'll give you more information about that and also the show. So from all of us, from Diego, who's at our master control in Colorado, and yours truly here speaking from Akron, this is Pastor Michael Mangus, knowing only blessings for you this week. And thank you for watching.
Thanks for joining us this evening for Friday's Fireside Chat with Pastor Michael Mangus. Join us again next week at 8 Eastern, 6 Mountain for more spiritual conversations for today. For more information and replays of past shows, please visit the New Thought Radio and Media Network's Facebook page. Until next week, may God bless you richly and abundantly.